Budgeting your money is never a fun process, but thankfully there are several ways to go about doing so. And that's important because I believe different budgeting styles work better with different personality types. So today I'm going to be going over one that you may have not even thought about using, and that's cash stuffing. I'll cover exactly what it is and all the steps it takes to get it going. And then by the end of the video, you'll be able to decide if this is something that will work for you or not. So the cash stuffing method is a way to force yourself to track every single dollar you spend in all of your budgeting categories. So the way you'll do it is by having a certain amount of cash stuffed away in a specific envelope, and that envelope is for each specific budget category. And at the end of every month, you'll be able to see exactly how much money is left over in each category simply by just looking in the envelope. So it's a pretty straightforward system. Although implementing this strategy does take a lot of self-control and dedication because you're only accountable to yourself. Meaning if you decide to cheat, there's nobody there to stop you. However, the payoff is that you'll gain complete control of your finances. So if you're constantly overspending in certain areas, this will be an amazing strategy for you. Simply due to the fact that you'll already have a predetermined amount of money in each envelope set aside for that specific category. And once the money in that envelope is gone, you can no longer spend money in that category. But more than likely, once you see that cash amount starting to run low, you'll dramatically slow down your spending. Because I seriously doubt anyone will want to run out of money knowing they still have days, if not weeks, left of the month. So this will force you to stop overspending and help you achieve your financial goals faster. So to get started, the first thing you'll need to do is decide what will your specific budgeting categories be. This will be the core of your entire strategy, because when it's time to allocate your money, each one of these categories will have its own specific envelope, and you can use cash stuffing for any specific expense that you want. But the most common are things like dining out, groceries, entertainment, household goods, clothing, gas, personal expenses, and gifts. And notice that dining out and groceries are in two different categories, even though they are technically both food. And the reason is because you want your budget to be as specific and realistic as possible. Because let's say you did combine both of those categories and you set aside $400 a month. When you go to the grocery store, you won't have any idea how much of that $400 is really for groceries and how much should be left over for dining out, and vice versa. And yes, I do agree that groceries are definitely more of a priority than eating out. But the purpose of this strategy is to budget your life. And I believe that includes doing the things you love to do as well. And if for nothing else, to help you stay motivated to continue with the plan. The difference is now when you dine out, you're not just spending whatever you want. You actually have parameters of how much you can spend for the entire month. And just that category alone can help you save a lot of money. So one thing I advise you to do is to track your expense categories over a 3-month period. That way you'll get a clear picture of exactly what you spend money on. And to do so, you could check your bank or your credit card transactions, you could save receipts, you could write down your expenses, or you can even create some type of spreadsheet. But one thing you do want to keep in mind is that you may not be able to do this strategy for all your expenses. Some exceptions will be your fixed expenses. Those are the ones that are set in stone and do not change. I'm talking about things like your rent, your mortgage, or even your car note. So your budget will have to be based around those items. So the next thing you have to do is now create that budget. The reason for this is to ensure that you're not putting too much or too little in each one of those envelopes. So to start your budget, you're going to go back and look at all those expense categories again, but now you want to pay attention to how much you're spending in each one of those categories. And if it looks like you're consistently overspending in some of those specific categories, then look at limiting that category to a certain amount every single month. And trust me, if you feel like groceries are the things that are eating up your paycheck the most, you'll soon notice that this cash stuffing strategy will give you the motivation to start eating the food that you already have in your house versus buying things, forgetting about them, and then letting them expire. So you will literally be able to start targeting your bad spending right away. So now that you have a better picture of your spending habits, now it's time to look at your income. And the income I'm referring to is your net income. That's the amount of money you have after taxes have already been deducted. We want to use that number to make sure this budget is as accurate as possible. So once you've figured out that net income, the next thing you want to do is subtract those fixed expenses I mentioned earlier. Those are things like your rent, your mortgage, or your car note. Because since those payments are typically done electronically, it wouldn't be necessary to make an actual cash envelope for them. So now the money that's left over is what you'll actually be using for your cash stuffing strategy. Also, don't be surprised if it looks like you spend more money every month than you actually make every month. This is very common, and this is more of the reason you definitely want to start this budget. So now it's time for the setup process. And don't worry, the setup process is very low maintenance. All you'll need is a few envelopes, just enough to cover the number of expense categories you made, and maybe a box to store the envelopes in. Or if you want something a little more organized and durable, I'll add a link to a cash stuffing kit in the description box below. and that kit will have everything you need to get started. But either way will work just fine. So the first thing you'll do is title each envelope based on the expense type. Next, you'll have to set a dollar amount for each specific envelope. And be sure that the limits for these envelopes fit within your overall budget. So you'll definitely have to play around with the numbers so you can find something that you're comfortable with. And it will feel like you're negotiating with yourself as you're taking money from one category and giving it to the other. All these things are quite common. And just know it may take a couple months before you find an actual budget that really makes sense financially. So never be afraid to go back and adjust the numbers if you feel like the previous month did not work out well for you. Because remember, the overall goal is to stay within that entire budget. So if you need to move things around, it's perfectly fine. So now it's time for the fun part, which is actually stuffing your envelopes. And here's how you want to do that. So let's say you determine that you're going to set a budget of $500 a month specifically for groceries. And we're going to assume you get paid twice a month. So when you get your first paycheck for the month, you're going to take $250 of it and take that $250 and put it directly in an envelope titled groceries. So if you get paid direct deposit, this plan will require that you make frequent visits to your bank for withdrawals. Otherwise, you can just cash your check. However, make sure you avoid any unnecessary ATM fees because we didn't calculate those fees into the budget at all. And then when you get your second paycheck for the month, you're going to do the exact same thing. Take $250 out the bank and put $250 in an envelope so you'll have $500 for the month. And of course, you'll be doing the same thing for each category. So each category just gets cut in half. And if your job doesn't pay twice a month, just adjust your stuffing day. Or if you like, just do it at the beginning of the month. What matters most is that you find a cycle and you stick to it. And here's a visual of what actual budget can look like. So this budget is based on having $1,270 a month. As you can see, it's broken up into specific categories. So I have $200 going to transportation, $200 a month going to shopping, $100 a month for entertainment, $350 for groceries, and even $50 for miscellaneous. Now remember, if one of those categories goes to zero, I can no longer spend money in that category. And remember, if something does go wrong, go back and make adjustments so the next month will be even better. And this may not be your specific dollar amount or even your categories, but it's a very good template to use to help you get started. Now when it comes time to actually use the money, make sure you take money from an envelope for a specific purpose. This is one of the most important aspects of the entire process. Because if you cheat, then it defeats the purpose of using this specific strategy. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're borrowing money from one category to pay for something in another category, you are setting yourself up to struggle to fund both these categories until your next paycheck. Again, finding the right allocation will take a lot of trial and error. So in the beginning, have discipline, but don't beat yourself up. And to make this process as smooth as possible, just make sure you set some type of standards. And when you do pull cash from an envelope to go buy something, make sure you're taking enough to buy whatever you need to buy. Because if you brought $100 and your total comes to $110, you will have to put some things back. And trust me, that's definitely not the ideal scenario to be in. But it's a whole lot better than overspending and completely throwing off your budget. Because remember, when you run out of cash, you're completely out of money. So a mistake in one category can cause unnecessary sacrifices in another. And on the flip side, if you do take cash out of the envelope to go buy something and you have money left over, that leftover money goes back in that envelope. So stay firm to the idea that no money leaves the envelope except to buy something for that specific budget category. And when the money is gone, the money is gone. And there may even be times when you have leftover money at the end of the month. And if that happens, feel free to do whatever you want. You can invest it, you can spend it, you can add it towards debt, or you can just let it roll over to the next month. So I would recommend you reward yourself with a portion of it and just send the rest to either your debt or some type of investment. So the overall goal for cash stuffing is to help you stay on track for your budget, enforce financial self-discipline, to hold yourself accountable, and to make it pretty hard, almost impossible to overspend. And I believe it's a great way to begin your journey towards your financial goals. And that's regardless of past experience with saving money or not. So I really hope this video was helpful in introducing you to the cash stuffing method. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.